What's going on, y'all? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today, by request on min-maxing for fun and profit, leadership. How to attract people to your banner without having them fall for doing so. Specifically, we're talking about the followers over the cohort. If you're liking what you see, remember to like, subscribe, ding the bell. Stay caught up on all your stuff for now. Let's dive in. So, leadership. Bane of GMs all over the internet, yet part of everyone's fantasy structure since they read their first Chosen One narrative somewhere in the early aughts when they were in high school and didn't fit in. I guess I should just @me next time. Anyway, it's a super prevalent thing in the stories we tell. Everything from the grim and gruff grizzled veteran who needs someone to lighten the mood, make the diplomacy checks, and get a song stuck in our head rent-free for several years, to someone who wants to start a business, run a ship, get in with the local mob. Leadership is the way to do this. Specifically today, we will be talking less about a cohort in first edition and more something that's considerably more system agnostic. The leadership rules exist both in Pathfinder 1st and 2nd edition. In the former, it's a feat you take at level 7, which allows you to get either one lieutenant who generally ends up being 2 levels lower than you, who you can drag around to battle and bog down the action economy, or several smaller individuals. In 2nd edition, leadership is an optional rule set with its own individual organization level. As your organization levels up, you attract more followers. It becomes part of the narrative. Because it is baked in as a storytelling mechanic in 2nd edition, today the lens will point more at Pathfinder 1st edition, but this video is meant to be pretty darn system agnostic. 2e players just have less hoops to jump through. In 1st edition, an individual character has a net leadership score, the base of which is your level plus your charisma modifier. There are several other things that can modify from there to get a considerably higher score for those of us with less charisma who want to be on par, or those of us who are bards who want to be well above the curve. To quickly run over those to talk about how you can get those in your games, starting with the leadership reputation table. Great Renown, I'm pretty sure by level 7, assuming you started at first anyway, your character has done something in the world that would have earned them this. I distinctly remember a 3.5 book, though I don't remember which, where there was a rule something along the lines of like, by level 8, your character was identifiable by knowledge local or nobility checks. The same logic applies. Another great way to put that, by level 7, generally speaking, we're looking at end of book 2, beginning of book 3 in a given adventure path. AKA, you've seen some shit. So far as fairness and generosity goes, that just comes down to A+ roleplay. As for the special power, I can't really speak to that one as much. You will know better than me. It sort of depends on your setting. In something like Wrath of the Righteous, as soon as you become mythic, boom, you've checked the box. In some campaigns, just the ability to do magic might qualify as a special power. In a low magic setting, teleportation, great power. In a high magic setting, teleportation, just another Tuesday. For our next table, don't get your cohort killed, stay within your alignment, and don't play a class that gets a familiar mount or animal companion, otherwise the score is knocked around a little bit. For our last table, a stronghold, base of operations, guild house, etc. Also probably really darn easy to have come into by level 7. Clear out a given dungeon, and rather than take all of the stuff and move on, leave all of the stuff there. See if you can't find the deed to the place on somebody's pocket. If not, finders keepers. Now you have a place to live. That doesn't sound very fair and generous. Don't tell your followers you did it that way. Cost of living is relatively cheap even for the most bougie things in a lot of settings, and by level 7, you don't have the wealth to buy an empire, but you have the wealth to buy a small town. I think you can probably swing a house. The death part for us will be easy. We will not be dragging so many very low hit dice followers onto the battlefield with a dragon where they immediately succumb to the dragon's frightful presence and are picked off like so many mice running in a field. Moving around a lot, that might be a -1 you have to accept. It depends on what your GM calls moves around a lot, the scope of your campaign, so on and so forth. Scrolling down to both of our tables, let's say by jump. we are a level 7 PC. Let's say as a level 7 PC, we have a 22 charisma, a modifier of 6. That puts us to a leadership score of 13, even before extra modifiers. In first edition, that gets us 10 level 1 followers with 1 level 2, essentially leader or sergeant, or however it is framed for your organization. In second edition, a level 13 organization nets you about 150 followers. None of them can be more than level 2, with 16 to 22 odd lieutenants ranging in level from 3 to 5. This obviously a much bigger number and a much better table for the thing I'm about to describe. What do we do with these? I don't think I've ever seen the choice be made at a table for someone to take leadership and then not immediately grab something that was just the vibe their build needed to succeed. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity because there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with lower level things without just dragging them around with you. For example, that many individuals in a given place, double that number, that's how many eyes you have where you specifically are not. This can often be a trap for folks that need to be everywhere at once to make sure everything is fine, and then you land in analysis paralysis with people at your beck and call whose standing orders are something along the lines of move amongst the people in my capital city. If you see anyone who's suspicious, report back to me. Hook up the one you trust the most with the sending stone so they are able to do this. You have power within the narrative to be present even when you're not. Take that exact scenario, you can mold that exact scenario really however you want to throughout different styles of campaigns, forward scouts, a criminal network. Go see this thing that I can't, tell me about it. Information before initiative is rolled can often mean life and death. Second thing that gives us a lot of power in the world, followers can help make downtime things happen considerably faster and continue to happen when the party is off gallivanting, saving the world and such. Maybe not necessarily in terms of item creation, but I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this video can remember a time in their TTRPG career when they landed in some part of the world that they had just shown up in, where they landed in some part of the world where they wanted to stay to make a difference within that world, but couldn't because the plot. Everything from a village that's fallen on hard times that needs more bodies to put it back together, to something the party wants to explore but cannot because that particular place is, say, caved in or requires like the work of a construction crew before others can come in. Your followers can fulfill this role without you necessarily having to sit outside the same place for 6 months while the plot advances, allowing players to have their cake and eat it too. Lastly, obviously this one requires the whole table to be on board, and there will be some folks who don't want to do this. But take it from me, sometimes you need a break from a long-running campaign. Sometimes you need to stretch your legs. Sometimes you need to get out of a particular character's set of boots of speed. Followers can do that. Followers are almost certainly presented challenges that if the party showed up, they'd snap their fingers and they'd be done. But for the players who are just like, well, half the party didn't make it today, or do we have to, I'm not really feeling this. Can we do something else today? Then we pivot over to the followers and what they're getting up to. Both leadership tables allow us to get relatively high level characters. Again, not anywhere near as high level as the party, but you understand. But there are some builds that are good to go in first edition by level 5. In second edition, a lieutenant running from 3 to 5 has seen their first ability score up, and enough feats to have very interesting builds for something along the lines of the party's town is under attack. Hungry monsters have woken up from hibernation and would like to, eat all of the villagers. Now you have to defend the town. It becomes a very Mountain Blade-esque scenario. I don't know if y'all have played that. Y'all should give it a shot. It's a very good series. A bunch of peasants with pitchforks, apprentice wizards with baby spells, and everything in between is an entirely different mode of combat. And that difference can force our heads to get out of that headspace, think about other things, think about other tactics that maybe we aren't trying so much. It allows the GM to, when new monsters are printed, be like, oh, you know, I really want to use this. It's gratuitously underleveled for the party. I'll throw it at their friends instead. Roll all of that together, you have a great recipe to defeat burnout while simultaneously advancing the plot in your campaign and doing a very interesting bit of world building. You get way more attached to that innkeeper when that innkeeper has picked up a crossbow and is now one of your followers and is firing over the head of the player's like first level sword and board fighter lieutenant, right? See what I mean? Scenarios like this can also be solved without the camera, strictly speaking, panning over to it. Maybe a little less Mount and Blade and a little more like the Total War franchise. If you have a plot army and you know there are things you gotta get up to, but there are too many of those things, rather than split the party, you have a literal second faction, and essentially you can hit the auto-resolve button, but still check that thing off your to-do list without being anxious about the ramifications of leaving something undone. All in all, like anything else, used wisely and with the full-on approval of everybody else at the table, I think leadership is super wonderful, and that is all I have to say about that. What do y'all think? How has the leadership system worked in your campaigns? Have you ever taken the follower over cohort variant? What was the result like? Let me know down in the comments below, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.